New episode for MatNum for April 2024. Like every month, I'll be looking at pictures I've taken in digital computational photography using my own apps, Camare, Vika, Darkcam, and Digital Paula. So here are the three first pictures. The two middle and left are quite abstract, but I thought it was interesting to show those two because I'm going to be more graphical this month. So I won't be that descriptive. I will be quite completely in fully random mode in the way I took the pictures. But here are the two first pictures, left and middle. It's the same image that's gone through the experimental editor of Camare, and you actually don't see the same detail. And I thought it was a nice way to show how the treatment of your photograph gives a very different image, even if it's abstract. Textures are not the same. It's really, algorithms have an importance in the way they treat the images, and so those two are quite interesting in that sense. Or also in the way it distorts geometry, like the picture on the right, the layers of filtering I've put, the algorithms kind of break some of the lines. And actually that's a picture taken from a train. It's almost abstract, it's hard to know. It's in Brussels, train station in Brussels. But I kind of liked it. I liked the way it rendered. Then when you use all those pictures, we've seen these kinds of pictures in the past in my previous episodes. That's the lava fields in southwestern Iceland. Subtle transformations through algorithms can give texture, can add some information and some transformed information in a way that makes the image differently poetic or differently effective for the narration you use. Like here's basically the same place, a little bit further down. How different the treatment is from one that was kind of adding some old CCD simulation signal, and here just kind of elimination of most of the colors and keeping just two of the major colors, kind of magenta and blue purpley hues. Here same treatment, same place, basically. How a series, if it's using basically similar treatments, can make more sense, like when you would use a limited amount of equipment to take your pictures, or a very similar film, not going in all directions. I'm actually working on something for the software for you to be able, and for me, first of all, able to manage better series using similar treatment procedures. Here, three times the same pictures. That's one of the intro sets before the concert of Ben Frost in Iceland. For those who've followed the serial playlist on my channel, you've seen the more traditional photos with real cameras. Here, just to show how different the contrast can be, how the image can be really, the details from the image can be very differently put out depending on what kind of algorithm you use. From this kind of almost reversed black and white image on the left to this kind of aura, bluish, pinkish aura from the singer here. And the small details on his shirt, everything's very different to this kind of bichromic thing in the middle. Or here, also pretty strong treatment, but that's actually the concert from Ben Frost for the middle and the left image. How the textures you add will really create some different feeling to it. And this very techno setting of the scene is really transformed by the addition of the granularity, those dust particles, and the way the colors are really increased. And anyways, how the treatment can change the feeling that comes out from the scene. On the right, that's almost a monochromatic image of a small detail of broken concrete on grass. I thought it was an interesting picture. There's some color. The algorithm here kind of unsaturates most of the parts of the picture, but keeps some details in the most prominent color tones. Or here again, three random pics, with very different ways of treating the image. One on the left, that's a foggy day in Iceland, viewed from very high, and not that very high actually, but high for Iceland. Or this pictured with the flare in the middle and the zoning of the color rendering, or something more traditional, not that transformed on the right, but still there's some textures, there's some palette transformation. Here again, from that foggy day, from basically the same point of view, that's above Reykjavik. I don't know why, I thought this image was quite interesting. It's actually a snowy day, it's snowing, we don't really see the snow, but the treatment kind of gives this sort of increases this foggy aspect, this kind of phantomatic feel to the overall scene, which otherwise wouldn't be that interesting, I believe. Here are two pictures on the left, the same image through the experimental editor of Camare. How different, it's a good illustration of how different an image can express the underlying subject, depending on how it's being applied to it. Or on the right, it's the Ondo insaturator. Actually, sometimes it creates auras in pictures, and sometimes it does those very donut-like shapes of the treatment. And I think here it's actually interesting too, but that's one of the extreme cases of the application of the Ondo insaturator. And I thought made this traffic light quite interesting. Also, 3 examples of a scene I kind of like. I like the contrast, the light of the scene, and those 3 different expressions through the experimental editor of Camare have meaning for me. I like the way this kind of analog rendering on the far left, or this image in the middle where you have this phantom image above that adds a not very well locked in secondary image above the main one, or the kind of cheesy, but that I've learned to appreciate, folded paper look on the right. Here on the right, just again an example of 2 very different renderings through the experimental editor of Camare. The sky, the reversed sky, luminosity of the sky can appear on the image in the middle and reveal some of the details of the branches, or make it more dramatic like on the picture on the left, or how the desaturation can be expressed in very different ways. That's for the middle and right picture. Both are very desaturated, but depending on how and which colors are put front, it's going to really reveal something else. Here are 2 other examples of the same picture edited randomly through the Camare experimental editor, middle and left. I think it's near Zurich. I'm not very sure where I took this picture, but I could check the GPS data on the pictures. But anyhow, I thought those 2 were interesting, with the square insaturator effect plus the black and white high grain filminator above on the picture on the left, to this more kind of matte, not very contrasty image in the middle. Or this very contrasty image of an underpass. I thought the rendering was pretty cool. I really liked it. If you don't know it's an underpass, it's hard to know, but increased contrast, addition of textures, and increase of the color contrast, and this kind of very weird treatment of the image. I thought it worked pretty well. Very graphical. Here also, this month is a lot of traveling, so I think that's one of the things I really enjoy too, is taking pictures through windows, and having a phone as a camera in those circumstances makes you quite more reactive. So this month was kind of a through the window months, where most of my pictures are through windows, either from trains, buses, planes. Here on the left, again, the inversed luminosity of the sky, which kind of I find interesting, outlines the branches of the tree, and I kind of like the overall composition here. That's in Geneva. The middle and right are in central Switzerland, I believe. with again this kind of weird effect of the insaturator on the colors, where the main two hues are kind of pushed with a blur effect and an increased contrast in those zones, or the square insaturator effect on the right with those squarey, pixely looks to different zones. Here also 3 pictures from the Geneva, so west of Switzerland region. Springtime is getting warmer. I thought reflected pretty well, even so the colors are very transformed because of the algorithms chosen, well, randomly chosen, but still. It's still my selection of all the pictures I took this month. I thought the left picture was interesting. It's kind of an HDR, but still contrasty image where you lose details in the low light. I kind of liked it. That's the fountain, the Geneva fountain. Again, in the middle, you see the Geneva fountain a little bit further away. But that's was one of my insaturators that actually splits the image in 3. Here it's in 3, but sometimes it's different. In vertical bands and puts them together. It's an interesting concept, I believe. And yeah, the results sometimes are pretty bad. Here there's 3 zones, but the 2 first one, left and middle, are kind of well fused. And the picture on the right, that's again this kind of a ghost image above the main image, which makes it more interesting. That's the Parc de la Grange in the neighborhood of Eaux-Vives in Geneva. Here we have 3 random pictures taken from a train. Again, random mode. I selected those because of the quality of the colors and the graphical transformation, the textures. I think it's quite interesting. Or here's 3 times the same picture edited differently using the experimental editor of Camare, showing again how different same scene can be with those trees in line that's taken from a train and the flare, the sun fully lit in the middle left top part of the picture. Or here, taken from a plane. Some pictures I kind of really like taking from pictures. So we have the left and middle picture taken from a plane window with very different effects. Or the picture on the right, again, this contrasty effect from a window in a house. Here, 3 pictures of the volcano regions in Iceland. We've seen those before. Actually, the smoke you see, that's from what was an active volcano until now, very stylized, stronger rendering, I believe, of the original scene, which was kind of uninteresting. Well, it's interesting, but it looks like smoke because the volcano is not very strong. It's afar. But yeah, very strong texturing and very strong stylization because of the algorithms. Again, also, algorithms can be there to kind of diminish the contrast or the detail of an image. And as you see on the middle or and left image, that's the same image treated in the experimental editor. Very different rendering. The detail is way finer in the middle image. The glow, however, kind of diminishes the understanding of the overall scene, while on the left, the contrast is still a bit better, but the image is kind of artificially blurry. Or the Booty machine insaturator on the right image, and this very strong vignetting effect on... That's a view from a train, actually, but it's just a wall, very graphical wall. Lots of images from planes, or either above ground or still on the ground. On the left, that's Iceland. In the middle, I have no idea. And on the right, I think that's Seattle in the state of Washington, the west coast of the United States. And in between, here we have Greenland. The 2 pictures, middle and right, that's the same image treated differently. And the picture on the left was one of my latest insaturators. This very strong, contrasty, weird-looking definition, but incredible sceneries. Looking forward to do some ground, I could say photography, well, from the ground in Greenland one of those days. Here again, random algorithms, details of plants, of gardens. pretty stylized on the left with this in the Filmulator module, but more in the insaturator module in the middle picture. That's the Geo insaturator. Sometimes when it's more subtle like here, you get something I think very interesting, or this kind of increased contrast because of the diminishing, how do you say, the decrease of the number of colors prominent in the picture on the right. Or here with the 3 pictures, same image through the experimental editor, very different rendering. I'm starting to really like those series of same picture going through different insaturators randomly. Here, that's the west coast of California. Basically, the Pacific Ocean on the left, details of trees, middle and right, with very different. I kind of like the filter on the far right, with those glowing effects, blue, purpley, green. Also spending a lot of time in planes. I thought maybe documenting it a bit differently could be interesting, and I think it's definitely a place where getting your large camera out is more complicated and less discreet, that's for sure. And here, the left image is a wing of a Boeing 777 with this kind of interesting curve. Also here, that's someone in the plane was working with the mask on, and I kind of really liked the way it looked, the colors of the windows, because on those 777s you have you don't have a curtain, you have this pacifying glass that you can select electrically, kind of like an LCD, and gives this sort of weird hue, but really nice. Here also, I think the picture on the left, that's probably above the Bay Area near San Francisco. In the middle, that's probably Germany. And also here's a kind of a self-portrait on the right with a shadow of my head on the seat next to me. I thought it was interesting. And yeah, 3 last photos. Picture on the left, that's probably in Geneva. I'm not really sure. Maybe San Francisco. I think it's Geneva, but and I kind of like that picture because of the lines the plane creates with the constructions behind. The lack of writings, of logos or whatever, is kind of also an interesting feature of this photo. It kind of reveals how omnipresent all those advertisements and markings are usual, and how nice it can be when they're not there. Or here are 2 small details, middle and right, of the sky, sunsets at different times, during different trips, that find themselves here. So it was nice, simply because of the small contrasty appearance of the horizons in black and, well, in dark, and the reddish, bluish color above. Or maybe it's the same night. I'm not really sure, actually, but yeah. Anyways, I hope that was still entertaining. It was maybe a less informational video than usual, but don't hesitate to comment, ask questions, suggest for the future episodes, and yeah, catch you next time.